Hey guys, so this video is a companion video to my blog post on the BitDice Casino ICO. So here I'll be going over the financial projections for the project, and then I'll talk about all the assumptions that are made for the projection. So I've talked about this BitDice ICO in detail on my blog. I looked at it from an investment perspective and talked about the benefits and the risks of the investment. So for more details, please go to my blog. So here is just a brief overview of BitDice Casino. So BitDice Casino is, as the name implies, a casino for cryptocurrency gambling. They've been around since 2014, so they're one of the earlier players, and they're doing an ICO right now to fund their expansion strategy, which we'll talk about later as well. So the ICO is going on right now. The crowd sale has started on August 15th, and it's going to last until September 15th. So some quick details. The token's name will be CSNO for casino. The token runs on the Ethereum blockchain, ERC223 standard. The total number of tokens will be fixed at 100 million. And this ICO will feature quarterly payouts to token holders. So basically, you will get 70% of BitDice profits. So this is a lot like holding a share in the casino where you will be participating in the profits. In addition to the payouts, the casino tokens will also be one of the currencies that are used on the platform to place bets and to cash out and reward players. Okay, so first off, so BitDice has its own financial projections, which you can find in its white paper. So here's what it is. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over what their financial projections is, and then we're going to build an entire model for the projections, and we're going to see if we get their numbers and if their projections hold up, basically. Okay, so they have three scenarios ranging from mediocre, optimistic to extremely optimistic. So it looks like this is sort of a 1 year projection, where in the mediocre case, the total amount wagered, which we can look at as the revenue, is 555,000 Bitcoins. And then they have sort of a maybe 1.6% profit margin on that to 6,000 Bitcoins in profit. So basically, all that this just translates to about 11 US cents per token in as a yearly dividend payout. So in the optimistic case, you can have up to 33 cents per token and then 51 cents per token. So what does this payout mean? Right, so we have to look at this payout in relation to the price per token. So the price per token currently is not completely set yet. So it will be dependent on the total amount raised during the ICO. So actually, let's take a look at their ICO's website. So this is the BitDice ICO website. You can see the ICO is still going on. It ends in about 9 days. And over here, we can see the current total amount raised. So it's about 9.8 million right now. So if you look at their white paper, it says that the minimum amount raised is going to be 10 million. However, they can go over that if there is more interest in their project. So there's still 9 days left in the project. So they'll probably raise more than the 9.8 million. I think it's a good bet that they'll raise at least their minimum amount, which is 10 million, I think, at this point. So yeah, let's say they raise like 12 million, right? In another 9 days. So that means that they raised totally 12 million, and then there are 100 million tokens outstanding. So that means that each token will cost 12 cents. So if each token costs 12 cents, that token gets you an 11-cent dividend in a year. So that's a very good dividend yield. That's like a nearly 100% dividend yield. So I think this is exactly what they're trying to show here, that even in the mediocre case, you can have a close to 100% dividend yield. And in even better cases, you can have over 100% dividend yields. So this would make it a very attractive investment opportunity. So now we just want to see if these projections are actually realistic and if they make sense. So that's why we will actually make our own financial projections for this project. Okay, so if you want to know how much money BitDice will make in the future, there's a few moving pieces. So there's basically like some questions that you should ask. There's the market questions, and then there is questions around how BitDice will operate in relation to that market. So the market question is, so we want to know how big the online gambling industry is. We want to know how fast that is growing. And then there's a distinction between crypto gambling versus traditional currency gambling, which we'll call fiat gambling. So basically how that breaks down between the two. And for BitDice, we want to know, how much market share they have in the crypto market and if they're going to gain shares in the future. We also want to know how much share they'll be able to take by moving into fiat gambling, which is part of their expansion strategy. And then finally, we want to know what is the profit margin that BitDice will make on its revenue. Okay, so here is how I've set up my financial model. So this is a top-down financial projection of BitDice. So the first part is industry projection. So basically, we look at the online gambling market, how fast it's growing, how much is going to be crypto, and how much is going to be fiat. And here, fiat gambling, let's just define that really quick. It's basically non-cryptocurrency. It's the traditional currencies like US dollars and euros. So then we look at BitDice projections. So essentially, we just look at BitDice as a percent of the market, how much market share they have, how much it will gain in the future. We break that down between the fiat and the crypto markets, and then we look at the profit. Okay, so the first step then is the market size. Okay, so the online gambling market. So first of all, like we can look at BitDice's white paper, and then according to BitDice, the online gambling market is currently $46 billion, and this is projected to grow to $52 billion in 2018. And then so let's not just take their word for it, but let's also do our own research and then see what other market research companies are saying. So I found all these other market research for online gambling. So there's one company called Research and Markets. This is a slightly older paper. That they said that in 2014 the market was around 36 billion. They projected a 10.81% annual growth rate, and so they say this will grow to 66.59 billion in 2020. And then a more recent report by Transparency Market Research, they said that the online gambling market in 2016 is around 42 billion, and it will grow again around 10.8% per year, and by 2024 is going to be around $97 billion. So like with all these numbers, I think that BitDice's own like numbers for the current versus its growth is pretty reasonable. This current, I'm not sure what year it refers to. I don't think it refers to the full year 2017, since the year is not over yet. It's if it does refer to 2017, then it's implying a very high growth rate into 2018. It's around a 20% growth rate. I think it's gonna be less than the 20% growth rate. I think this is not 2017. Basically, I think it's maybe a trailing 12-month number, or maybe even a 2016 number for the market size. So basically, so I'm not actually using their number. I'm actually using this research and markets number, where I start with 2014 at 35.97 billion, project about 10.81% growth rate every year to 66.59 billion. So what this says is, this means that currently in 2017 is around 49 billion in size, and in 2018 is around 54 billion in size. So this compares very well to the numbers that BitDice is giving. So basically, in summary, I think the BitDice white paper numbers make sense for the market size. So next, moving on, now we have to separate between the crypto gambling and the fiat gambling. So according to BitDice white paper, less than 5% of online gambling is attributed to cryptocurrency gambling. So here we say that in 2017 is 5% of the market is crypto gambling, and the remaining 95% is fiat gambling. Going forward, I think that this number, this market share for crypto will grow. And the reason I think this is because more and more people are becoming aware of cryptocurrencies, and cryptocurrencies are growing more valuable. So I think that's an incentive for more people to be gambling in crypto. Additionally, I think people are creating new altcoins all the time, and as just the number of altcoins increase, I think people will just want to gamble a little bit more. So basically, in my projections, we have crypto growing in percentage in relation to the online gambling market as a whole. Okay. So now we move on to BitDice and how BitDice will operate in relation to its market. So here let's talk about BitDice's expansion strategy. So their expansion strategy is kind of two-pronged in that. So their first strategy is to expand into the fiat gambling market. So this is not only a much bigger market with a lot of growth potential. Additionally, fiat gamblers seem to care less about the concept of provably fair games. So this is a concept that is very important in crypto gambling, where I guess people like to look at if the game is actually fair and how much edge the house has. So BitDice has a very, very low house edge. It has a 1% house edge. So that means that players are more likely to win compared to other places where they gamble. So they plan to build a bridge between crypto and fiat gambling, and to introduce the concept of provably fair games to the fiat market. I think this is something that people will like, because it means that they have more chance of winning, right? So I think that they will take some share in the fiat gambling market. And then additionally, in the crypto market, they are going to be adding more games, and then they're also improving their systems to improve latency, and generally they're going to spend some of the ICO proceeds on more marketing and promotions. So I think all that is going to lead to BitDice gaining more share in the crypto market, as well as taking some share in the fiat market. Oh, and another thing, actually, so here it's pretty nice that we have the past revenue and profit. Profit's not shown yet, but so we have the past revenue for BitDice. This is all in their white paper, and you can go find it. So they have, a pretty nice track record of growing revenue. So then now let's take a look at this total revenue that we're projecting with these numbers in place. It says that BitDice will make 556,000 Bitcoins in 2018. And then in their mediocre projection, it says that they will make 555,000 Bitcoins per year. So this is slightly higher than their mediocre case. So now that we've kind of put some numbers around the moving pieces, this makes their case more credible, which I think is a good thing. And also just note that their projection is sort of just this annual projection, as if they're kind of going to make the same amount every year. Or something like that. They only give a 1-year projection, whereas I'm extrapolating this for 3 years going into 2020. Because I think their expansion strategy is going to be multi-yeared, and because I think it's reasonable to think that they will still be in existence past 2018, because I think Bitcoin will be in existence past 2018, and as long as Bitcoin exists, I think people will want to gamble with it. So basically I have these growing revenue numbers going into 2019 and 2020. And then you'll notice sort of in later years is looking more like their more optimistic projections. Okay, so now let's move on to profit. Okay, so for the profit, we are going to project what the profit margin will be. So it's this here. I'm projecting about a 1.1% profit margin going forward. And so now let's break down the profit margin a little bit. So the profit margin is primarily driven by the house edge, but there's also some other costs. So it's house edge minus some other costs. So like the house edge, what that is basically like a casinos, in the long run, the house always has a probabilistic edge, and BitDice's house edge is 1% currently. So if you look at their previous profit track record, in 2017 it was 1%. In previous years, it's a little bit lower than 1%. So probably because there's some other costs that's eating into the house edge. And I think this makes sense as they're ramping up. They need to pay their developers and things like that. So I think the same will be like that going forward, where they will have a certain house edge, and then there will be some cost taken out of it. So this is actually also in line with what they're projecting themselves. Like they are projecting a 1.12% profit margin in their mediocre case. And as they're explaining it, so they are projecting that their house edge increases in the future as they introduce some high margin games. So most of their games will still stay at the 1% house edge, but they will also have other games that are going to have a 4% house edge. So in the mediocre case, they are projecting 20% of share coming from a 4% house edge and 80% from a 1% house edge. So that, if you do the math, is about a 1.6% house edge. And then in the optimistic case, they just basically have a higher share of the high house edge games. So that's 30%. In extremely optimistic is 40%. So then here I'm using the mediocre case of 1.6%, and then I'm just subtracting some other costs to that. So you have this conservative estimate of 1.1%, and it stays the same going forward. Now we can take a look at their profit in BTC. In this projection is showing 6,228 Bitcoins. This is in line with their mediocre case of 6,217 Bitcoins. So it's like slightly better than their mediocre case. So again, what this is saying is that their projections make sense, is not unrealistic, it has like reasonable assumptions behind it. So now let's move on to the payout. So basically the payout is probably the ultimate metric that most token holders would look for, since that's what they're getting paid, and it's also a culmination of like how well the casino is doing. So the payout here, I have it at 70%. And then this is exactly what it says in the BitDice white paper, that 70% of BitDice casino profits will be distributed in ETH to all holders each quarter. So I think, so I'm projecting a 70% payout basically every year going forward. I think so, I think it is likely that it will stay 70%. There is really nothing that is, like binding them to that. I think that it could change. However, I think, this is sort of like you can take them on good faith that it will be 70%. Just like if you look at kind of their previous track record with their previous investor program, they have been like pretty good to investors, and also, if you revise the payout ratio downwards, it will be very negative to the price of the token. I think this is sort of similar to how dividends work with stocks. So this is why I think that, I believe the 70% payout. So that's the assumption I'm making, 70% payout. And all this translates to a payout per token. Here, what I'm getting is a 20-cent payout per token in this projection. And we can, again, compare that to BitDice's own projection. Again, the mediocre case, notice how they had 11 cents per token, and our 20 cents is, quite a bit higher, especially if you look at how the revenue and profit has been, only slightly higher than their projections. And the reason for this is basically just because of the price of Bitcoin. So the price of Bitcoin was lower when they did this projection, since it has been basically kind of rising all year. So when you translate to US dollars now, you just get a higher US dollars. However, it's still reasonable to look at it in terms of US dollars because their ICO amount was given in US dollars. So I think it's, it's just a good thing that it's coming out to be 20% rather than 11%, 20 cents rather than 11 cents. Okay, so also in my projection, I'm projecting higher payout in coming years as they continue their expansion strategy. Obviously, this would also depend on the price of Bitcoin. You can plug in your own price of Bitcoin prediction here as well. So basically, that is all for the financial projections. Please let me know what you think in the comments below. You're welcome to, give your opinions on the assumptions. If you think they're reasonable, if they make sense, you can make your own financial projections and share them below. And also you can take a look at my blog post, which is also going to be linked below. I also have a link to the ICO if you would like to look into that. So that's it, guys. Thank you for listening.